Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I could do some nasty stuff to Adrienne Barbeau.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss The Fog, which came out in 1980, written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, and directed by John Carpenter. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis for The Fog?
Well, the residents of Antonio Bay are about to celebrate their 100th year anniversary of their founding. The only issue is that Antonio Bay is cursed. 100 years before, a ship, the Elizabeth Dane, crashed against some rocks and all the crew were lost. But the people settling the town decided to steal all of their gold. And now that crew are back and have brought with them a fog.
This is John Carpenter pretty much after the success of Halloween.
Yeah.
And John Carpenter wasn't even aware of how successful Halloween was. And he, of course, set out to make another low-budget horror movie. You know, he was travelling with Deborah in England. They came to Stonehenge and they saw The Fog. And they were like, that would be a really good idea. I want to do a revenge story about a killer fog. And so the idea for the film was born. Interestingly, the film was shot in less than 30 days with a budget of just over $1 million. And I find it fascinating that the advertising for this film was 3 times that of the film's actual budget, to the point where when the film was playing in select theatres, they had smoke machines emulating a fog, just to give the atmosphere within the film. But for me, The Fog has always been John Carpenter's weakest film. This is the film where, given the choice, I would probably watch something else, and I would... If often asked, I would probably watch Ghosts of Mars over The Fog. So, revisiting The Fog now, I was kind of hoping that this film would prove to me why it has such a cult following. John Carpenter even went on record himself as saying that he was not a big fan of the film in of itself, that there was a lot of problems that he wished he'd have addressed, and actually at the point in production, much like to his success with The Thing, when they take a small break from the shoot, he looked at what he had and he went, we need to make this scarier. Yes. We need to go back and add more scenes. And it was sort of that success which worked for The Thing. For me, it works here, but it's noticeable.
Well, this is it. I mean, for me, The Fog is a ghost story.
Totally.
Really, really good ghost story. You know, you've got the old sea captain right at the beginning talking to this group of children who he's taking camping, and he just sets the film up. He's already got it feeling eerie and weird by telling us, you know, this tale of the Elizabeth Dane, how it crashed against some rocks, how all the hands were lost, you know, and the other fishermen talk about, if you ever see the fog, you know, it was there 100 years before, and so it's still about. And right there, you're already kind of put on edge. And luckily, like you said, John Carpenter had gone back and said, look, we're going to add this bit in right at the start. And I'm glad he did that, because it sets the rest of the film up.
It really, really does. It is a scene that was added in afterwards, but this is it's a bit of a trope in of itself now, where you start, you know, a horror movie with a campfire telling a ghost story. But this one feels legitimate, like the real deal, because it doesn't feel false like all the other horror films that would come.
Well, that's it. The sea captain delivers it so well that he believes what he's saying, so you believe it as well. And then when it cuts to the children's faces, they're looking scared. And I love that shot as well, where the camera goes up from the sea captain's face and then you see the ocean at night. And the only other film that I think kind of makes me feel scared of the ocean back from the 70s is Jaws. You know, so between a shark in the ocean and the fog on top, I was just like, I'm never going in the water ever. Just stay away. Just stay away from it. We then head down into Antonio Bay, and you can hear Adrienne Barbeau playing Stevie over the radio.
So if you're so excited about it you can't sleep, well, stay up with me and I'll figure out some way to keep you occupied.
She is, wow. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis was brilliant in Halloween. Adrienne Barbeau in The Fog is just as brilliant because it's her seductive voice. You know, she's got all this music playing and she's telling you what time it is. But between the hour of 12 and 1, the weird shit happens. Car alarms are going off all over the place. You know, the phones are ringing off the hook.
The petrol pump comes out and starts ringing up the gas. The car gets elevated on the suspension thing.
Yeah, there's that guy. I mean, there's the guy in the shop. I'm like, who fucking sweeps the shop at 12 o'clock at night in the dark?
Yeah.
You know, he's doing it in the dark. But then all the shit starts smashing and he's got to go around looking for it. And we cut to Bennett in the church, played by fucking John Carpenter. And Bennett comes up to Father Malone, who's played by Hal Holbrook. And, you know, he says to him, oh, well, do you want me in again tomorrow, Father? And Father Malone's like, yeah, come in at 4, come in at 6. I don't want to pay you that much, or I can't pay you. And there's that first jump scare.
Hello?
This brick falls off the wall and smashes on the floor, and you see the diary of his ancestor, his father's father, his grandfather.
His great-grandfather.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is kind of hilarious, but blink and you miss it. But when he opens up that diary, there's an inscription on one of the first pages that you can only quickly make out, and it says something, my college education to work writing dumb shit in this fucking movie props. Being one, it's time to bring in the world's guide or the big tits, tattoos and shaved beavers. It goes on. You're just like...
That's John Carpenter.
Did they really just have, you know, like a grip or someone just go, quickly, we need some inscriptions in this book. Fill this prop book with words.
We then follow Tom Atkins in one of his first roles. I mean, he hasn't even got a mustache.
No.
Here.
But he, of course, he would work with John Carpenter on, was it Escape from New York?
Escape from New York, yeah. Halloween 3.
Yeah.
You know, he'd go on to do Maniac Cop and Night of the Creeps. And luckily he grew a mustache, so it made him have a bit more appeal. And he picks up Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, you know, I just seen Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, and she would be cemented as the Scream Queen for many years to come. You know,
time.
That's it. And she'd be kind of forced into these horror roles because this is what she was known as. Seeing her as the Fog, I was just like, nice. She's acting. She's playing a different part. I mean, I do like the joke around that, you know, she is still Laurie Strode and she's left Haddonfield and this is why she's hitchhiking all over the place. But, you know, she jumps in the van with Tom Atkins and there's that, you know, nice little back and forth of, are you weird? Yes, I am. Oh, good, because the other guy was normal that used to pick me up. And you think, you know, maybe that's why they went back and added it. But Jamie Lee's weird appearance, you know, she'd say it later on in the film that all these weird things have started to happen after he's picked her up. And you know, as the audience, you're like, no, it's not you.
I'm sorry.
What for?
Ever since you picked me up, things have been going wrong. The clock broke, the windows have been breaking. The weirdo at the door last night.
That isn't you.
I'm not so sure. Things seem to happen to me.
There is something else. You just coincidentally picked up at the same time.
I do have I think, yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is a great actress, but her role in this film is void. You know, you could remove her character from this film and it would change nothing. And it does feel a little bit strange that she would turn up and then, you know, in the very first night jump into bed with the guy who picked her up off the road.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
And their relationship continues on. And like I said, she's just kind of there. And the sequence that would come later in the film, of course, these were scenes that were added in extra, which included her. So, yeah, it's a bit of a sticking point for me, but... yeah, I still like Jamie Lee Curtis.
But it does kind of connect as well to Janet Leigh, who plays Mrs. Williams. And Janet Leigh is obviously Jamie Lee Curtis's mum. We wouldn't actually see them together again until Halloween H2O.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was only this time that I actually realised that Janet Leigh was playing Mrs. Williams. But Janet Leigh has a cool part where she's like one of the governors of the town. And she's so happy and excited that they're going to have this great celebration and all these great things. And yet, when she has that sit down with Father Malone, and Father Malone pretty much just tells her, look, our whole celebration is built on a lie. It's built on the murder of these innocent people. She's shocked, but at the same time, she's like the mayor from Jaws, where she's just like let's just pretend that doesn't happen. Let's just ignore all that. We cut back to Stevie on the radio, and she has some great conversations with the weatherman. And the weatherman was named Dan O'Bannon by John Carpenter. Now, obviously, Dan O'Bannon was the guy that John Carpenter worked with on Dark Star, and he would go on to write the original story for Alien. But they have that cool conversation over the phone, and you can tell that they've had this relationship building for a while, and all they've done is talk over the phone. The weatherman really wants to get with Stevie, you know, but Stevie, being the single parent, kind of rich, I suppose. She's just bought a lighthouse and her own radio station. You know, she's actually just wanting to do her own thing. But the conversation they have about the fog bank rolling in and this one lone fishing trawler out, the seagrass, and giving them the warning that this fog is coming, you're just like, oh, it's a bit uneasy.
That does then go to pretty much one of my favourite scenes in the film, where you're in the cabin with the three fishermen out there and they're getting drunk.
Yes.
And I just love the dialogue where they're just like, oh, she's mentioned us on the radio. I'd love to meet her. And then they're like, what about that fog bank? And I just love the guy's just reaction. He's like, there's no fog bank out there.
Yeah.
She's crazy. There's no fog bank out there. Hey, there's a fog bank out there.
The guy who does that line is, I think his name's Buck Flower.
That's right.
Who would obviously appear in more John Carpenter movies. But that line, there's no fog bank. And then it just appears, you know, and you just sat there. Now, I've never been fishing during a fog, but I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to move like that. And I'm definitely fucking sure it's not supposed to glow. But it's just so creepy, the way it just envelops the ship, the way that they're trying to get the engine started so that they can head back. The fog just kind of moves by itself into the engine, cuts it off, cuts all the power. You have that brilliant shot of the ship coming alongside, you know, and then all of a sudden there's just figures on the fishing trawler. Now, like I said, I'm not a fisherman. But if I'm ever out on a boat in the fog and some guys just appear on my boat, I'm out of there. I'm fucking leaping into the fucking water. I don't care. Because the lighting, the way the fog is around them, it just sets you uneasy. Gets the hairs on the back of your neck.
Absolutely.
Standing.
And the killings are fast, efficient, and brutal. You know, this is the film, I'm pretty sure there's no blood in the entire film. But there is lots of impalements by sharp-hooked fishing objects.
Yes.
Which, you know, in your imagination, it just does everything, just like the original Halloween. And, you know, and I love the lighting, as you said, with the guy when he's back in the ship and he's shouting out to his friends. And you can see the door open and you see the shadows come in. And you basically just see the lighting on his face before he's just taken off by these ghostly fishermen.
Oh, he's not taken off. He's picked up and you see that hook.
Stab him a couple of times.
It's just right in the eyes. It's just like, that motherfucker dead.
Oh, yeah.
We see Stevie's son, Andy, running along the beach. And this bit freaks me out as well, because obviously he comes across something shiny and it's a gold doubloon. And he picks it up. Or he goes to pick it up, but it changes into that driftwood. And now he runs back to his mum and he's like, Mum, look, I've got this great piece of driftwood. And you see that the word Dane is written on it. And you're just like, burn it, get rid of it, just chuck it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that piece of driftwood would show up again as Stevie then tells her son, you know, don't go near the ocean anymore and stay away from the coast.
Yeah.
But she takes that piece of driftwood to the station, and more weird occurrences start to happen, and it's a really cool effect where you see the water just sort of coming out of the driftwood, and dripping down the tape deck.
See, I always thought that the words were coming out of the tape deck, but
the words change on the driftwood to "Six must die."
6 must die, and then I hear the voice coming through the tape deck, and I heard it probably for the first time in the 100 times I've ever watched this film. I actually was able to hear what the guy was saying about him seeking revenge.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody was gonna be killed for it.
Something that flits with like an albatross around the neck. No more like a millstone. A plumbing stone, by God. Damn them all.
There was 6 conspirators.
Yes.
That basically decided they were going to take the gold from Blake, who was this... Was he a pirate?
No, Blake was part of a leper colony.
That's right. And he didn't want the leper colony being settled near their colony.
Blake wanted to set a leper colony just up from Antonio Bay, and he was going to use his gold to obviously settle their colony and obviously give some to Antonio Bay. But the 6 conspirators, and the only one we ever find out about is Father Malone's grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, didn't like the thought of a leper colony being nearby, because obviously they all believed that they would all get contagious, and they would come down with it too. They set the idea up, the conspirators, to sink the Elizabeth Dane so that they can take the gold themselves.
By setting up a fake lighthouse, by lighting a fire somewhere so the ship crashed on the rocks.
Yeah.
And so, they stole all the gold, and thus the city of Antonio Bay was born. Now, as a revenge story...
Yeah.
And now, it's taken, you'd think a curse or whatever, it will come every year, maybe. But this curse comes every 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they're seeking revenge on the 6. 6 must die.
Yeah.
But they've already turned up and killed the 3 fishermen on the boat at the beginning. So I'm like, so were they 3 indirectly or directly related to the 6 conspirators, or were these 3 just average fishermen that would just happen to be caught in the fog? Because the fog, when it rolls up, starts knocking on everyone's windows and doors.
Yeah.
And it's like, so is it after specific people that are related to these conspirators, or is it anyone will do? They'll just want to take 6.
I suppose that's one of the negatives of the film. It never fully explains that. In the script, I think it was supposed to just take out the 6 descendants.
Yeah.
Of the original conspirators, but it doesn't fully explain that. And like we said, they take out those 3 at the beginning, and they almost kill Nick when he's at his home with Jamie Lee Curtis. But it cuts to 1 o'clock, and the fog rolls back. And I don't think Nick is actually related. He does say that he's lived in Antonio Bay a lot of his life. His father was a fisherman.
He had the connection because he was friends with those that were out on the seagrass.
Yeah.
So I figured the fog had come for him too, because he was the 4th descendant conspirator.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's the same with Mrs. Kovitz later on. She's an oldish lady. Is she related to somebody? You never get told who the other conspirators are. The only person you know is Father Malone.
Exactly. So you're just making assumptions here.
That's it. I always put it down. Personally, I always put it down to the fog will just kill 6.
Yeah.
The first 6 people it gets to, because it also kills the weatherman.
Yes.
And has the weatherman been living in Antonio Bay all his life? I don't know. It almost kills Stevie as well, and we know for a fact Stevie
and her son almost gets him too.
That's it. And certainly Stevie hasn't lived the whole of her life, because she was living in Chicago.
So the fog is aiming indiscriminately against anyone it can get to.
Yeah.
Now there is a big point of contention I have with the film, is that I'm now jumping to the film here, but nearly the entire town convenes at one location in the film.
Yes.
And we are told, the fog is already coming straight up the coast, it's already hitting the town.
Yeah.
And we follow Miss Williams and her assistant they leave 10 minutes early. They hear on the radio to head to the church. It's the last place not been hit by the fog. And at the same time, the other characters have rescued her son, and they're driving because they're listening to the radio as well. They drive back into the town, the fog comes in, and they drive away.
Yes.
And so I'm like, but what about the several hundred people in the middle of the fog.
Oh, I've always hoped that they've just been wiped out.
We never go back there.
No.
And in my opinion, they are all fucking
They're all
dead.
fucking dead.
The fog killed them all.
And that would have been an awesome bit to fucking see. You know, can you imagine everybody there with their little candles, seeing the statue like, oh look, there's a fog coming, and oh my god, I'm fucking
Everyone's
dead.
getting butchered. Yes.
And I'm like, good, because that makes Blake even more scarier.
And exactly, because it later comes on to the fact that the fog will come back to claim their sixth. So I'm like, well, it just doesn't quite add up, and it makes me go, I'm trying to question it.
Well, yeah, like you said, jumping further, they do get their six.
Yeah.
So by the end of the movie, you know, Blake has gained his gold back and gained the six must die. So, like we said, we'd already said this at the beginning.
But the thing is that they get rid of the fog by giving him his gold back.
Yes.
And the fog's like, thank you. There's like this big bit of magic almost.
Yeah,
There's, you know, that otherworldly explosive sound.
Yeah.
And the fog rolls back. And then it's... So you're like, well, they defeated the fog. You know, the curse is lifted. But the fog comes back and kills the father, claiming they're sick.
Yes.
But then the film ends. And so you're like, well... So they didn't end the curse. Is the fog now just going to carry on rolling across America?
No. see, now, obviously we'd already said this. You know, John Carpenter had written it and then had to go back and re-edit. So there's a lot of inconsistencies. But for me, the basis is they are coming for 6 souls to take the place of the 6 conspirators that killed them. They're coming back for that gold. And in a weird way, as much as you want to think that Blake and his crew are evil, they were actually the innocents in it. So they are just seeking revenge, and they will seek revenge on everybody in their path until they are satisfied. By the end of the film, as with a lot of John Carpenter movies, you are left there with many questions, and it just leaves it open for whatever idea you think of. Myself, the idea is Blake has claimed all of his souls, got his gold, and has rolled back, but has now left these people with this living nightmare. Because all of the survivors at the end, how do you tell people that? Oh, it's like the scene with Nick and the doctor, you know, and they've got the dead body of the fisherman, and they're saying to him, Dr. Fibes, played by fucking Napoleon Wilson from Assault on Precinct 13. You know, he's just like, look, I'm telling you, that guy's been underwater for a month. No. We found his body
in the cabin.
He
never even touched the water.
Never even touched the water. Yeah, but there's water in his lungs. The skin's discolored. There's seaweed. There's that. You know, and you sit there questioning, like, well, what is it? And then the body even gets up, and walks a bit,
which led me to believe. I mean, we are seeing that these are, like, we called them fog sea pirates, but they're like zombies.
Yeah,
and I guess anyone that is killed by the fog fishermen become zombie fog fishermen too.
Or become, I suppose, conduits.
Yeah.
So that Blake. I'm pretty sure Blake is the main one. You know, he's the one with all the evil power. Maybe he sold his soul when he died to seek his revenge. But the body gives that message of the 3.
Yeah.
You know, so that you're like, right, okay, they've got 3, so 3 more die. 3 more are to die. But at the end of the movie, how do you tell people that? How do you tell the police officers? Oh yeah, see this guy's dead body, this fisherman's dead body. Yeah. He never even touched the water. He was killed by a fog and a bunch of undead sea pirates. The police would be like, what? Get the fuck out of here, man. You know, but they've all seen it. They've all felt it. They've all been chased by it. And you're just left there, like I said, with a lot of John Carpenter's movies, sat there at the end making your own assumptions.
Yeah, I mean, it's like during the festivities, and the sheriff gets a phone call and he goes wandering off. It's the last you see of him.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
but that's John Carpenter movies. Characters come in, characters go off. You never ever have to see them again.
Yeah, I guess it's worth mentioning that the actor playing Blake, the lead pirate, is Rob Bottin, who, of course, we would know would go on to do special effects for John Carpenter in the future, especially The Thing.
Yeah.
You know, then he would go on to do RoboCop, Total Recall, and I just think it's great that when he was auditioning to do the special effects work for John Carpenter, he was sat there and John Carpenter just went, stand up. And Rob Bottin reflected that he thought he was going to be told, John Carpenter's next words were going to be, and get out.
Yeah.
But John Carpenter literally just wanted to see the size of the man and go, you're going to be Blake, and then you'll do the makeup as well. And that was how he got his start in the business. It's like, that's a great little story.
I mean, that's the beauty of... That's what I always love about John Carpenter movies, is that you're able to just take, you know, a dark shadow across an actor, a bit of fog here and there, and you've just got this fucking presence. Every time you see those figures in the fog, it doesn't matter where they are, what scene you're looking at, it's just fucking scary. You know, when the weatherman is sat there in his little weather booth, and he's like, oh yeah, there's a fog right outside my door, and somebody's shining a torch, and they're banging on the door, and Stevie is screaming at him, don't fucking leave the phone, don't open the door. And he walks out there, and he's just like, hey, who's out here? And then that figure is just fucking there. And just grabs him, and you hear all the gurgling and all the screaming and all that kind of stuff, and then the body's just gone.
It's the same when the babysitter's there and she's telling the boy to get back in the room.
Yeah.
And as soon as he does close the door, because he's like, I want to see who's at the door. Like, back inside. And as soon as he closes the door, you see the shadows just pull her out.
Oh, God,
and
yeah.
you just very quickly see glimpses of the movements of the arms.
The ripping of clothes or flesh or something. Oh.
And there's a thing that gets me, is that when the other characters come to rescue the boy, they don't give that babysitter a second glance. They don't even look for her.
Matt, would you? Would you? With all this shit going on, you've just driven up to this house being screamed at by the radio telling you to get to this address, and you get there and you see a fog all the way through the house. Are you going to walk in going, hello? Hello? No, fuck that shit. I do what Nick does and just run round the back, you know. The little kid in the room as well. I mean, it must have been fucking terrifying just sitting there while somebody bashes in a door with fucking fish hooks.
Yeah.
You know, because I sit there on edge like, what if Nick hadn't got there? You know, would he have become the fifth?
That's what I was wondering. It was as if they'd claimed enough victims, would they have just then... the fog would have just gone back after getting their six?
Well, I think they would have... If they would have claimed the 6 before...
Without getting the gold?
They would have still come for the gold.
Okay.
And they would have killed as many people as they've had to then reclaim the gold. But as the film goes, people are being rescued. Nick is the main hero. He's here, there, and everywhere, looking up all the leads, finding all the information. He still has no understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just inadvertently, they all get chased up to the church, which I think is brilliant because it's on Beacon Hill.
Yeah.
Which, I assume is where they had that fire for the ship.
You know, there's some interesting name drops in this film, and of course John Carpenter shows his love for H.P. Lovecraft with the fact that when they're looking for the seagrass, that they need to make a sweep around the south of Whately.
Right, yeah.
And, you've got Whately Farm in H.P. Lovecraft, and there's also characters named Whately, comes up quite a few times. And he also mentions Arkham Point.
Nice.
So dropping in the name of Arkham there. And I think he also mentions Pagoda Bay, which is the same location as the Birds.
Yeah.
So he drops in quite a few names there, of course, with the character names like Dan O'Bannon as well.
Yeah. Dr. Phibes. I mean, Tom Atkins plays Nick Castle, who was the name of the guy who played the Force in Halloween, and you're just like, it's funny because it's that point where John Carpenter's on his third movie, and he's just like, I need ideas. I'm just going to steal that from that film. I'm just going to steal that from that film. I'm just going to steal that. And unless you're a big fan and you've read up on all the notes, you wouldn't notice it. The film just goes along that. One minute it's all creepy, and the next minute you're feeling kind of natural, like everything's going to be all right, but it's not. The fog is coming back. The way that Stevie looks out of her lighthouse and just sees it just completely covering the ocean and then half the cliff, I'm like, man, get me the fuck out of here. I do not want to be here.
The fog effects in itself are really good, from the optical effects of the fog sort of coming in over the bay to all the smoke machines that they had. And one of the scenes that they added in at the end when they looked at the film and realised that its running time was a bit short was the climax on top of the lighthouse.
Ah, yes.
And just to go to show how they had to work with the fog and to get the effect to work. The entire sequence where the fog sort of dissipates up on the top of the lighthouse was all shot in reverse.
Nice.
And it's pretty seamless. You can't actually tell, and that's just credit to Adrienne Barbeau, who had only just recently got married to John Carpenter, which actually upset quite a few members of the crew because Deborah Hill and John Carpenter were together during Halloween.
Yeah.
And of course, Deborah Hill is part of the production of this film now that John is now married to this actress, and he's written the role for his wife, hired his wife, first-time actress, and it's the starring role. Although, incidentally, she has one scene with another actor, which is her boy. Yeah. And every other scene, she's just on her own. Yeah. And I think that's quite fantastic as well, that you have two big leads like Jamie Lee Curtis and Adrienne Barbeau, and they never even meet.
No. I mean, she only really speaks to Nick over the phone. Yeah. And then the rest of the time, she's conveying, information to him through the radio. But I've always loved John Carpenter's way of just making you feel isolated. Oh, yeah. And especially with Stevie's character, she is on her own for most of the film, just sat in that beautiful fucking lighthouse. I mean, if I ever get rich enough, I'm either buying an abandoned weather station in the North Pole and watching The Thing for the rest of my life, or I'm buying that fucking lighthouse and I'm just going to live there watching the fog for the rest of my life. But it's just so brilliantly well done. And does the fog know that she's giving information? Because it could roll in on her. She's probably one of the closest points when it's coming in from the ocean. But it only really goes for her after her son's been rescued, and she's telling everybody, look, it's here, it's there, it's moving this way. And then all of a sudden it's over the hill and it's coming down and it chases her all the way up to the top of the lighthouse. And it's really close because she slides down that roof. And you can see the guy, the figure coming up the ladder, and then just out of the darkness,
another one behind
her, and he stabs her, and you're just like, oh fuck! And then she uses that hook to fight them off, while you've got the climax of the movie at the church. And Father Malone's just like, yeah, I found the gold. I'm just going to go take it out to Blake. And he takes it out and they're all stood there in the church. Now, you don't need no lighting on them. They just look scary as fuck. But then when Blake has those red eyes, I just like, right, you didn't need to do that, John. You didn't need to do that because I was already scared enough. Now I'm slightly being pushed over the edge. And we'd already said it, but you get to that final sequence, them holding the gold, the big light. If Nick hadn't pulled Father Malone back, Father Malone would have been taken with them.
I expect so, yeah.
He'd have been taken with them. But Nick rescues Father Malone. The gold is taken. The fog all recedes back. And you let out this nice sigh of relief while Stevie is telling everybody, keep an eye out for the fog.
It's very reminiscent of the original The Thing from Outer Space, where the closing is look to the skies.
Yes.
And if we don't wake up to find ourselves safe in our beds, it could come again. To the ships at sea who can hear my voice, look across the water into the darkness. Look for the fog.
But I love the fucking ending. The actual ending where Father Malone's all on his own. And he's just like, why didn't you take me, Blake? Why didn't you take me? And you feel that Father Malone,
he wants to be absolved for the sins of his entire ancestry in a way.
Yeah, but before he even finds the diary, or while he's reading the diary, he's noted as being a drinker. He's noted as not being the greatest fucking priest in town. He's living with a heavy burden before he's read the diary. But then Blake turns up. Father Malone sees all the crew there, turns back, and Blake's sword comes to the top of his head and it cuts, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So if there's one more thing that I really need to bring up before we get to favourite scenes is John Carpenter's music. The music in this is totally identifiable. You only need to hear just a few notes from the theme to The Fog, and you immediately know which John Carpenter score it is.
Yes.
It is that iconic. The music, you know, it is very repetitive throughout the film.
Yeah.
But it works. It gives the film room to breathe. And yet at the same time, when the fog's really rolling in, the music and the theme really comes in as well. Absolutely fantastic score.
Yeah, it works with all of his films. If there's no words going on, the music's there, and it just keeps the pace going. The same with Escape from New York, the same with The Thing, same with Halloween. He just kind of looks at his scenes and goes, oh, he gets his little keyboard out, you know. I just go, make it a little bit faster, make it a little bit slower, make it a little bit, you know, just echoey. But you sit there as the audience, and like you said, when you watch that fog roll and the music's playing, God, it scares me.
So I got quite a few favourite scenes. I love the introduction to the fog rolling in up against the seagrass and the three fishermen out there just looking at it, and all the way up to their deaths. It's just, that really just sets you into the film. I also really love the cinematography of the town. Of course, cinematography was done by Dean Cundy, who would go on to do Back to the Future, Jurassic Park,
Nice.
Apollo 13, Jack and Jill. What the fuck?
Jack and Jill.
But Dean Cundy is an amazing cinematographer, and it shows in this film. And he always enjoyed working with John Carpenter. Working on low-budget movies really helped shape his career as well, and seeing how you can really get and maximize the effectiveness of lighting and with minimal sets and design. The film looks fantastic, from its sweeping shots to its static shots. Great filmmaking.
Barring the fact that I absolutely love this movie, it's John Carpenter, so, you know, sold. I just love all of the creepiness shit with the fog. Like Gary said, the stuff with the seagrass at the beginning just sets you on edge immediately. The way it rolls up to Nick's apartment, you know, and you think he's going to be next, and then the glass breaks and it's gone. The killing of the weatherman, the killing of Mrs. Cobritz, you know, the way it's just there in the church when Father Malone walks out with the gold, and they don't have to say anything, they don't have to move, they are just stood there. The presence of them just there. I mean, seriously, people, come on. If you walked in a room and that was there, you would shit. That's it, basically. Tell me I'm wrong, but I would, and I'm a grown man. And Father Malone's death right at the end. It's one of those. It's John Carpenter does fucking endings brilliantly. You know, the same with Halloween, the breathing through the door. The same with The Thing, with McCready just sat there. The same with Big Trouble in Little China when the monster's on the back of the truck. The fog just goes up there with that sweeping sword shot, and you don't even see it connect. But as soon as it stops, your imagination does the rest. That his head is just gone off his body, and Blake, where has he gone? Has he gone back to the ocean? Are they still in the town? You don't know. You don't know. It's just, yes.
I highly recommend John Carpenter's The Fog from 1980. It is a cult masterpiece in terms of horror, in terms of filmmaking. It's such a low budget. It just launched John Carpenter's career, which, as we've known, has been troubled when he started to move into studio movies.
Yeah.
This is testament to getting out there and making a film, and, you know, and working on it and shaping it and defining him as an auteur director. This film, as I've said, I've always found to be the weakest of all of John Carpenter's films, and John Carpenter has admitted it himself. But even John Carpenter's weakest efforts are still better than almost every other film within the genre that he's making films in.
Yeah.
You know, he's setting a standard even with his weaker projects. And, You know, and you only then have to watch the remake of The Fog.
Why would you bring that up?
You have to bring it up. You
Yeah,
have
I
to.
know.
Because John Carpenter and Deborah Hill themselves produced the remake. Which, you know, at the time of shitty remakes coming out, I was like, wow, finally somebody's learnt to bring in the original talent behind that film.
Yeah.
Although, it turns out, and I can't blame you, John Carpenter, for doing this, although during the filming of the remake of The Fog, John Carpenter walked onto the set, shook hands with everyone, said hello, and went home, and received the biggest paycheck he could have ever received.
Yeah, that's my boy.
And I don't blame him, you know, because The Fog might not have earned him as much money as he needed. A lot of his films didn't reach the critical sort of masses that they needed to get the money to keep John going.
Yeah.
You know, all of his films received cult following and DVD sales and things much later on. And so, yeah, him getting paid for the remake of The Fog, I don't mind. Deborah Hill, she was a bit more involved in the remake. But my fucking God, was the remake of The Fog just another huge 9-inch fucking nail into shitty remakes.
Yeah.
You know, at least in the original film, the practical effects of The Fog. In the remake, CGI fog. Like, you can't even afford a smoke machine, or you'd rather pay extra to make it look like shit. Tom Welling coming, you know, taking a break between the season 4 or 5, I think, of Smallville. You know, this killed his film career dead, you know, and it is an abomination. They changed the story. They kept the characters, but changed the characters.
It just turned... I've only ever seen the last 20 minutes of the remake of The Fog, because when given the choice over watching the original or the remake, I immediately just go, John Carpenter. I will just go. I will watch it. I mean, I watched this one on VHS. I didn't even bother saying to Gary, let's get the Blu-ray DVD. I just got my VHS out. That's how much I care about this movie, more than the fucking remake. I watched the last 20 minutes of the remake and just wanted to puke. Because it was just so bad. Tell me I'm wrong. You know, if you've seen the remake, tell me, oh, Iain, you missed the characterizations here.
Well, obviously, John Carpenter's film was missing all the teenagers having drunken drinking sex out on the boats.
Oh, yeah, and the fact that, you know, Blake in the remake is not looking for gold. He's looking for his dead wife who's been reborn in the body of this teenage girl who Tom Welling's trying to fuck. I think Selma Blair's in it as well.
Doing a terrible job on that radio.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if there's ever a curse that should be coming from, it should be coming from the remake of The Fog. But, barring that hideous thing, we're going to get asked to do that film now. You know that. We're going to get asked.
I'm not doing it.
I'll definitely do it.
If anyone requests it, I will say no.
I'll definitely do it.
You're doing it on your own.
I'm
not watching that again. I'm never watching it again.
The original John Carpenter's The Fog is fucking outstanding. You know, if you're a fan, you've already seen it. If not, if you've questioned what John Carpenter movies you should watch, you should always start at the beginning of his career and just work your way through. There's no point jumping to the best ones, because when you get to the best ones, they kind of make the older ones look a little bit weaker. And then some of the later studio ones will make the older movies look better. But you should always start with the beginning. Start with Dark Star, then Halloween 1 and 2, then The Fog, then Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, In the Mouth of Madness, Escape from LA, Vampires, Ghosts from Mars. You know, I really want to watch The Ward, because, you know, I've gotten to that age now where I'm just like, I need another John Carpenter movie. It may not be as good, but it'll make me go, hey, let's go back and watch The Fog. Let's go back and watch The Thing. Let's go back and watch Big Trouble in Little China. Let's just do it, ladies and gentlemen, and avoid the remake.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Fog bank out there. Hey, there's a fog bank out there.